Mogul Motivation, educating and empowering entrepreneurs 1 week at a time. Presented by True Stories Media. And I am your host, Antoine Twiz Taylor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mogul Motivation. Welcome back. I'm happy that you are here. This is episode 142. If this is your first time listening, however, this podcast is for the aspiring entrepreneur who's trying to get over that hump and make things happen. This podcast is for anybody with a dream that wants to aspire higher and accomplish that dream. I don't ask for any money. I produce this podcast out of pure passion because I want all entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, any entrepreneur that has a goal to accomplish that goal and win out here. All I ask for is two things. Number one, if you find anything beneficial in this podcast, pass it on to somebody else in your network that may benefit from it as well. And number two, please leave a review. Let me know what you love about the content. Let me know what you would like to hear in the content. From the start, I became an entrepreneur in 2011. I was 23 years old. One of the goals that I was just fixated on, that I was just so diehard about accomplishing, one of those goals was I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I hit 30. So by the time I became 30 years old, I wanted to be worth $1 million. Yesterday, June 19th was my 30th birthday. I'm blessed to see 30. I'm grateful that I made it to 30 because a lot of people don't make it to 30. And, I'm just enthused and excited about it. But since yesterday was my 30th birthday, I'm not a millionaire. So that means I didn't hit that goal of accumulating a net worth of $1 million by the time I was 30. By the time I was 28, I wanted to be worth six figures. That didn't happen. By the time I turned 30, I wanted to be worth $1 million. That didn't happen. Right now, my business is worth five figures. It's going to be worth six figures very soon. But nevertheless, I didn't accomplish that goal. So since I didn't accomplish the goal of becoming a millionaire by the age of 30, in my mind, back in 2011, I will be a failure. In the mind of somebody that's a pessimist, I will be a failure. But I'm not a failure. Just because I didn't hit $1 million by the time I was 30 does not mean I'm a failure. Throughout my entire 20s, with everything I've built with True Stories Media, True Photo, the podcast, everything I have done is not a failure. It's just a grind. So I literally built a business with no prior business knowledge. I didn't major in business in college. I didn't have any family members that ran a business. I started a business in 2011, and slowly but surely up into 2018, I built it into a five-figure business. I built a steady list of clientele, a lot of repeat customers, repeat clients. I started this podcast when I was 27. In January 2016, I was 27 going on 28 at the time, and I started this podcast, and I've remained consistent with this podcast every single week for 142 consecutive weeks, inspiring other entrepreneurs and inspiring myself as an entrepreneur because I need it myself sometimes. I'm not perfect. I say that all the time. So I built a five-figure business. I started this podcast. And perhaps my biggest accomplishment thus far, in my opinion, is I finally released one of my many, many stories to the world. In the first episode of this year, I challenged myself with finishing my novel, Board Games, and I finished it and I published it. And many people have read it already. Many people have left reviews. They love it. And I'm grateful that I finally got one of my stories out to the world. That's perhaps my biggest accomplishment in my 20s. Because throughout my 20s, I always wanted to be a film director. For those of you who truly know me, I always wanted to be a film director. I admired Alfred Hitchcock. I admired Spike Lee, all of these people. And I always wanted to tell stories through a lens. So when I wrote down the original idea for Board Games, it was a movie at first. But I'm a perfectionist. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the resources to make the movie the way I want to make the movie as I see it in my head. So I decided to write it as a novel first. And it took me literally 3 years to finish it. From 2015 to 2018, it took me 3 years to finish this first book. And I'm grateful that I did finish it, and I'm grateful that I published it. I self-published it, and it's available on Amazon right now, Board Games. And I am so proud of myself. I have to pat myself on the back that I got that done. And that I kept my word and that I did what I said I was going to do. I kept the promise to myself, to my childhood self. I kept the promise to my grandmother, to my uncle, that I was going to tell these stories, and I did it. So with all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, My 20s were not a failure, although I brainwashed myself into thinking that my 20s were a failure, because every weekend I was working on my business. Every weekend I was either working on my business or I was too broke to actually enjoy myself, because all the money I had went right back into my business or it went to pay the bills. Being self-employed, being a self-employed entrepreneur, a full-time entrepreneur is not easy. Being an entrepreneur, period, is not easy. But when this is the only way that you eat, it's not easy at all. My 20s were filled with heartache, headaches, tears, frustration, anger, stress, worry. That's what my tears were. That's what my 20s were filled with. This entire decade was filled with that. And I wasn't as grateful as I should have been. I wasn't as happy as I should have been with all the things that I did accomplish. But that's going to change in my 30s, because in my 30s, it's going to be more happiness, more success, more focus, and less worry, less stress, less headaches. It has to be. We have to be grateful in the moment, ladies and gentlemen. And the point of all of this is this. We can't get so caught up in ages. You see, social media, the media, they give us these feel-good stories. You know, they tell us about how, you know, this person became a doctor at 18, or this person graduated with their PhD at the young age of 24, or this person opened up their law firm at 26. This person started a 6-figure business at the age of 21 and is growing to become $1 million by next year. We get fed these feel-good stories, and those stories are great. Okay? I'm not saying those stories are nonsense. Those stories are great. That's a blessing that these people were able to accomplish those things at these young ages. But we get fed these stories so much that we start to brainwash ourselves. We start to program ourselves in thinking that if we don't accomplish something by a certain age, we're a failure. If we don't accomplish something by a certain age, we're not doing something right. If you're not married with kids by 25, you're not the right man. You're not the right woman for somebody. If you don't have a house and a picket fence by the age of 28 and you still living in an apartment, or you're still living with your parents, then you're a failure. We get so caught up in these ages, in these numbers, that we lose focus on what really matters, which is the work, which is the things that we are accomplishing, which is the things that we're doing right now in the moment. We have to stop that today, ladies and gentlemen. Don't get caught up in ages. Don't get caught up in numbers. Just continue to be focused on your job. Continue to focus on your business, your brand, and what you're doing, what your mission is. Because when you get caught up in numbers like that, when you get caught up in ages, now you're not appreciating what you're doing. So you're really hustling backwards. Because you might be accomplishing, you might be doing big things, but you're not really focused on it. You're so focused on the fact that you're getting older. Right? You're so focused on the fact that you're about to be 27, you're about to be 28, you're about to be 30, you're about to be 35, and you still haven't done X, Y, and Z. Although you have done A, B, and C. We have to focus on why we started, the business, the brand, the career, the mission, the vision. Focus on that first and foremost. Don't worry about your age. Because see, what matters is when you continue to focus on your business, you're building something that's going to last for ages. You're building something that's going to make your great-great-grandkids rich. You're building something that's going to impact somebody in 2080. You're building something that's going to be around for a long time. Your name is going to be everywhere, even after you're long gone off of this earth. Your name is going to be on libraries. It's going to be on buildings. It's going to be on college campuses. It's going to be on that corporate office. Your name is what matters, not your age. Your name is what matters. Your work ethic is what matters. What you do is what matters. And that's what I had to tell myself. Yeah, I'm not a millionaire at the age of 30, but I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a billionaire. When? I don't know, but it's going to happen. True Stories Media is going to be known around the world. Mogul Motivation is going to continue to grow. The board game series is going to be popular, as well as my other stories, my other novels, my other movies. All of these things are going to happen. I don't know what age I'm going to be at when it happens, but it's going to happen. And that's all that matters. That's what you have to tell yourself. So don't get caught up in ages. It's good to set goals. You should set goals, but don't let those goals restrict you to certain ages, ladies and gentlemen. Don't do that. As long as you're taking your time, as long as you're working diligently during that time, that's all that matters. So that's my message this morning. Let's continue to work. Let's continue to imagine reality. And every year we get better. We don't get older, we get better as well. And every time we get better, we get closer to accomplishing our goals. Don't restrict your goals to a certain age. That's my message this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next week.